Hey guys, welcome back. This is Bernard from the BTNHD, and do not freak out, there is sound on this video. So you just saw a very quick unboxing on Lenovo's ThinkPad L13 2-in-1 laptop. So let's get into it. All right, so what comes inside the box? We have our setup guide right here. We also have our safety and warranty guide. We have our power brick, which is actually 65 watts. With a Type-C connection, and we have our power cable right here. So I'm going to actually take the power cable and plug it into the power brick. Boom, good to go. We're going to put all that stuff to the side. Awesome. Then we have the beautiful L13 Yoga 2-in-1 laptop weighing around 3.10 pounds, which to me, it just feels much lighter. With a thickness of 0.70 inches, this laptop is perfect for those individuals that want to have a very powerful laptop and travel light. Now, if you have the laptop facing you to the point that you are able to open it up like this, on your right hand side, you have the following ports. We have the power button, a micro SD card reader, a 3.1 USB port, and finally your HDMI port. On your left hand side, you have your audio combo jack, an additional 3.1 USB always on port, a network extension port for your Ethernet, and also your USB Type-C port. And finally, your power port, which is also a Type-C port. And finally, on the front of the L13 on your left-hand side, you have an optional smart card slot. All right, so we just went over some of the ports and features on the L13 Yoga laptop. So we're gonna open this guy up real slow. Bam. So let's power this guy on. Again, the power button is actually located on your right-hand side. It's located right here. Let's turn it on. Awesome. All right, so there are many ways to log in with the L13. Unfortunately, this laptop can't be configured to use Windows Hello, which is okay, but it does have the fingerprint scanner, and I have it set it up, so I'm gonna actually sign in right now using my fingerprint, and voila, we're in. All right, so let's talk about the trackpad, keyboard, and the display on the L13. So first things first, let's talk about the trackpad. So the trackpad, I did find myself using it a lot when I was traveling with this particular laptop. The trackpad works. I didn't have any issues at all. The size of it is pretty nice. If you do want to know the size, if you take a quarter, 1 nickel, 3 dimes, it's going to measure around 3.97 inches. Now for the keyboard was super responsive. I did enjoy using the keyboard a lot. I'm a huge fan with ThinkPad keyboards because they just work. Now the measurements between the keys is around 0.12 inches. And the keyboard is also backlit. Now the L13 has great audio. It has 2 speakers that are actually located at the very bottom of the laptop. And the loudness that I got on these two speakers was around 95 decibels. Now let's talk about the display. At the very top of the display, we have a 720 webcam with a privacy guard, which allows you to slide it to your right to turn it on. And if you slide it to the left, it kind of like blocks it off and turns it off. The display size is 13.3 inches IPS touchscreen, right? Not a huge fan with touchscreen. The resolution is around 1920 by 1080. The brightness of this display, I think this is the highest on the brightness. And this is the lowest that we could go right now. This is the highest. And this is the lowest. Cool, let's put this guy back. The L13 is able to stream HDR, but it is Windows HDR. You actually have to go inside and enable it. The display doesn't have a huge refresh rate. It only has around 60 hertz. The only issue that I had on the display is that it was just too big. By default, it is set to 150% scale. I had to reduce it down to 100%. Once you reduce it down, you're able to see almost everything that you want to see, especially if you're dealing with Illustrator or Photoshop or Premiere. You want to see all your panels. So reducing the scale to 100% works great on the L13. Now, one of the cool things that I forgot to mention to you guys at the very beginning when we went over some of the ports and features of the L13, this guy comes with a ThinkPad Pen Pro, which is actually located on the right-hand side, right here in the bottom. One of the things I do not like about the pen and the garage or where the pen is located is that it is extremely hard to remove it. You got to actually have some fingernails to get in there and remove it. But once you got it out, it is good to go. Now, the pen itself, performance, I'm not an expert. Way I used it and when I was tracing stuff within Photoshop, it just worked. There was no lag. I didn't find any issues with it. It just works. Again, I'm not an expert dealing with these type of pens. The pressure itself, it feels pretty smooth. I feel like I don't need to put too much pressure on it to use it. When I was tracing an image within Photoshop, it just felt really smooth. I had no issues with it. Okay, so let's talk about some of the specifications on the L13. So let's right click on the taskbar. And on the taskbar, let's go to Task Manager. Let's maximize the window. Let's go inside the Performance tab. And let's right click on the CPU, change graph to logical processor. And this machine is actually running an Intel Core i5-10210U CPU with a clock speed of 1.60 gigahertz. It's a 10th gen processor with 1 socket, 4 cores, 8 logical processors. Now, you are able to configure this laptop with an i3, i5, or an i7 10th gen processor, which is awesome. Now, from memory, this machine only has 8 gigs, but you could only get up to 16 gigs. So make sure when you're purchasing or configuring this laptop at the Lenovo site, you pick the right model. You only got 8 gigs or 16 gigs. The reason why I tell you guys that, because this machine, you are not able to upgrade the memory. So it's a one-shot deal. 8 gigs or 16. Make sure you pick the right one. For hard drive space, I got the one with 256 gigs solid state drive. And for the graphics, it's running an Intel Ultra HD graphics card. Now, this machine was able to handle Premiere, Media Encoder, Illustrator, Photoshop, Camtasia. I was able to do a lot with this machine. I was even able to run VMware Workstation 15 on this, which I'm going to double click on it right now, open it up. And I was able to run about 4 or 5 virtual machines, small machines, all Linux machines, and I was able to play around with Docker a little bit with this machine with no problem. I think the only issue that I had with performance was when Windows Defender was scanning behind the scenes, and it basically flatlined 100% the CPU. I wasn't able to use the machine at all. I did notice some heating around this area as well on the display on the L13. Don't get me wrong, one of the vents is located right here in the base, which is in between the display and the keyboard. So all that heat just hits the display as well at the very bottom, but it doesn't get hot to the point that I'm like freaking out that it's gonna burn out on me. All right, so we just went over some of the specifications, and this guy is able to handle my everyday workflow with no problem. But the battery, how about the battery? Because battery life on laptops is extremely important, because you don't want to be locked down, plugged in all the time. This guy is a super light laptop to travel with. I felt like it was light to me with 3.10 pounds. That's not that bad, right? So how about the battery, right? I did, as always, I ran PC Mark 10, ran it with 3 tests. The first test was actually the modern Office battery life. I got around 6 hours and 35 minutes. My second test, I ran video battery life, 7 hours and 18 minutes. And last but not least, I ran gaming. It only lasts around 2 hours and 30 minutes. When I travel with the laptop without the power supply, I got around 6 hours. And it all depends on how you guys use it. Now, I was playing around with VMware, checking email, rendering stuff, editing stuff within Adobe Premiere, Camtasia, Illustrator, Photoshop. And realistically, I got around 5 hours, 5.5 hours. And that's not that bad. All right, so let's conclude our review on the L13 from Lenovo. One of the cool things that I like about this laptop is that it has a lot of ports to hook up external monitors. We have an HDMI, plus we have the 2 Type-C ports, which actually allows you to hook up monitors with a Type-C connection. That's pretty cool. Now, the pricing on this guy is pretty good, but it really depends on how you guys, spec it out when you're purchasing it. Now, the lowest retail price is around $712. That is not that bad, but you're not going to get an i7 processor with that one. The lowest one is an i3 processor, and the highest price point on the L13 right now is around $1,500. One of the things I do not like about the laptop is memory. You're stuck with 8 gigs or 16 gigs, so make sure you pick the right choice when you're purchasing this particular machine. You are able to remove the bottom part and upgrade stuff, but the only thing you can actually upgrade is either the Wi-Fi chip or the solid state drive. Now, the pen is pretty cool. One of the things I do not like about the pen is the location of it, especially when you actually have the laptop on tablet mode and you're holding it. the pen is like stuck, and if you don't have like nails, you gotta like really dig in there to remove the pen. So what do I like about the L13? The battery life is amazing. I was able to render and edit 4K. It's super light to travel with. The price point is not that bad. The highest price point right now is around $1,500, but it all depends on how you get it configured within the Lenovo site. You know, I would definitely get this guy 16 gigs, max it out because you can't upgrade it. And that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review on the Lenovo's ThinkPad L13 Yoga 2-in-1 laptop. If you have any comments or concerns, leave them at the bottom. Make sure to hit that like button. Also, do not forget about punching, elbow, and smashing down that subscribe button to get the latest and greatest from this guy. And I catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.